listen as I pray. You leave the 99 for me. You paint the sky with promises of your grace, so I would find my way to you. Now I can see clearly, my God, you are for me. You won't let go. Your love won't let me down, and I know it's true. Yeah, I know that your love is all around. I believe in you, holding on to you, holding on, and I know you will never fail. I want all of you, you never change your love. Your love won't let me. Sit down. Your love won't let me. Your love won't let me. With one voice, let's sing. Holding on, and I know you will never fail. I want all of you, you never change. Your love won't let me down. Your love won't let me down.
Hey YM, welcome to another online service. We are super glad to have you join us here today. Now, we are a group of exciting, fun young people where we love to go all out when we worship. So whether you're at home right now or if you're watching with your CGs, how about you stand to your feet and join us for an amazing, power-packed time of worship.
Come on, you know this song. Why don't you sing this with me? Before I spoke a word. Before I spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so, so good to me. That's right. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so, so good to me. Sing. And oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. And oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. And I couldn't earn it, and I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. And oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Yeah. It's never-ending, it's unfailing. When I was your foe, still your love fought for me. Yeah. Well, you have been so, so good to me. That's right, come on, you sing it. When I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. Yes, you did, God. You have been so, so kind to me. Come on, let's sing that one more time. When I was your foe, still your love fought for me. Oh, you have been so, so good to me. Yeah. When I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. You have been so, so kind. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Come on, you make this your song. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Yeah, come on. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, there's no shadow you won't light up, no mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, no lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. And though it chases me down, finds till I'm found, He's the 99. I couldn't earn it, and I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless. Come on, why don't you just sing out your own song? You never stop, you never will. You're pursuing me, you're pursuing me. It's your love, it's your love. It pursues until the end. Oh, sing. Your love is relentless. Yeah, come on, just sing that over yourself right now. Your love is relentless. His love is chasing you down. He's not gonna give up. Come on. Oh, your love is relentless. Hey, hey, oh, your love is relentless. Oh, you never fail. Your love is relentless. Oh, you never stop, you never stop. Your love is relentless. Oh, you're chasing us down to the end. Your love is relentless. Yeah, yeah. Your love is relentless. held in your hands. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am made, oh, I will sing of the after us. You just want our hearts, God. Hey. Oh. There's no end to your goodness. There's no end to your loving kindness. Oh. So we stand in confidence, knowing that you're good. You're so good, so good. There's no end to your goodness. Oh, there's no end to your loving kindness. So we stand in confidence, knowing that you're good. You're so good. Oh, there's no end to your goodness. Hey, there's no end to your loving kindness. Oh, so we stand in confidence, knowing that you're good and you're faithful to complete everything that you started. Your goodness is running after me. Your goodness is running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after me. It's running after me. Your goodness is running after me. It's running after me. Your goodness is running after me. It's running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after me. It's running after all my life. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so good. Every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing the goodness of God. I will sing the goodness of God. Oh, I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God. Hallelujah, you have won the victory. Hallelujah, you have won it all for me. Death could not hold you down. You are the risen King. have won it all for me, and death could not hold you down. You are the risen King, seated in majesty. You are the risen King.
Now, as we go into a time of offering, now, offering is not just giving whatever it is or how much it is. And I just want to share a little bit from my heart about today's offering. So I'm going to read from Psalm 57 verse 10. And it goes like this. For great is your love reaching to the heavens, your faithfulness reaches to the skies. Now you see, God's love for us is so great. Like it says here, not only it reaches the skies, it reaches the heavens. Now how amazing is God's love for us? And right now we have this amazing opportunity to respond to His faithfulness over us in our lives through this time where we can give our tithes and offerings. Here are some ways you can give. Now, if you have a prayer need, just feel free to drop a comment down below or reach out to one of us, and our leaders will be more than happy to reach out to you and pray with you.
Hello, I am. Long time no see. What an amazing opportunity for me to meet all of you online, especially our friends who are not from YM who are also tuning in and watching us. I just want to welcome everybody. Welcome home. Welcome to our online service. What an interesting season it has been. I hope that this is our last online service. If you have not noticed from our social media account that YM is going to resume our physical service starting from October onwards. October 4th will be our first YM service resuming after this long break that we had since this COVID-19 pandemic. And we are excited that we are going to start YM on October 4th. And so for today, it is my privilege to share this word. This message has been in my heart for quite some time. I've been brewing this message, and I've titled this message today, Dancing Before the Lord. If you have watched our main church discipleship video, I feel this is not a coincidence, but it is something that God is speaking as a church, because the video that the main church came out with Pastor Josephine talking about discipleship like dancing with the Lord was exactly something it was brewing in my heart at least 2 months ago. And I think that this is the message that God is bringing to us as a church to encourage us, to inspire us. Today, as I want to share with you, I am talking to you from a season change that I've noticed. You know, when we start MCO, it was a whole different season as a nation. The pandemic came, we went into a movement control order, and then church stopped. A lot of things happened during this couple of few months. Many people went through different seasons. Some people struggled, you know, with this whole season. What's going on? Some losing jobs, some going through financial difficulties, some looking for new direction. I've met and journeyed with many people with different situations and circumstances, and I feel now at this point is a different season altogether. And so as we come recognizing that, you know, while the country is still battling with the COVID-19 situation, and we are slowly coming back to how the new normal should be like, I feel God has not changed. No matter what the season we are in, God doesn't change. And the call of God is always draw closer to Him. And that's the message of discipleship is all about. That we draw closer to Him, and not so concerned about what's going on. Yes, what's going on has affected us in many ways. Many ways. Even those who are not affected in any way, they still feel, some changes and impact this whole season has. And many of us are unsure what the new norm is all about. When will this come to an end? And having said all that, and this is the situation we are in, I want to encourage all of us who are listening in today. Go back to God. See what God is speaking to you personally. What is God leading you? What is the new season is all about? I've known a lot of people during this season has taken this opportunity for better, for worse, or nothing has happened. For some people, when this whole MCO happened and RMCO happened, as hard it was, they pushed and took time, Some went to spend a lot of time with God and came out refreshing and, took this time to be deeper with God. They were very clear with their direction. Some made career change. Some made change in their purpose. Some discovered their gifts. Some realized where God is calling them. Personally, for me, during the MCO, I don't know, for whatever reason, I kind of felt that I need to do some online courses that God led me, and I did some equipping courses, and I thank God because during that time, some of these courses were free, and as when I went to pursue, and it kind of enriched me, empowered me, and not knowing what was happening and what's ahead of me, I'm glad that I did what I did during the MCO time and the last couple of months, because God had something for me, and I'm prepared and I'm equipped and I'm ready for Him. I know some young people that I journeyed with, some of them who lost their job. I journeyed with this young person who started this online business and now doing very well and discovered a new passion and new purpose and doing very well now. There were many went through difficult time, but they decided to choose differently, to respond to God differently, and they come out stronger, and they come out with something that God has dealt with them. I know a couple of people who took that couple of few months, working on themselves, dealing with their struggles, dealing with certain things, and now they are very happy and grateful that they had that time, and now that they are back to their purpose and where God is calling them, and they are busy, they're glad that they had the time to do what they did and came out, and the outward was that they came out with what God has installed for them. But I also journeyed with some people during this MCO month, lost their fire, had no passion, fell into temptation, dealt with a lot of addiction, some had resentment in their heart, and when things happen unexpectedly, they became more negative and went far away from God. And therefore there are many during this couple of months who they felt dry, no purpose, no vision, They didn't build community, and so they felt a distance. They felt that nobody cared for them. They felt that nobody reached out to them, and some are resentful, some are dealing with bitterness, some are just far away. And these are the many things that took place during the couple of months, and that people, many respond of people, where they are, and this is what is going on. But I also met with many new friends. Some gave their life to Jesus. Some are still searching. Some encountered God in a very powerful way, and I'm very happy for them. And whatever that has happened a couple of months, as this thing is changing, the season is changing, and we are coming back to church and starting back our work and going back to the new norm, I felt the word of the Lord to all of us is that, go back to Him, draw closer to Him. And that's where my message is all about. Today, I want to encourage you, inspire you, and perhaps share with you. And as you listen, may the fire in you ignite, burn even deeper with excitement and passion, and help you come back to a place to where God is leading you, or what God has for you. And so again, my title of sermon today is Dance Before the Lord. And I'm going to read to you from the passage 2 Samuel chapter 6. The whole 2 Samuel is from verse 1 to verse 23. But what I want to read for you today, it's from verse 11 onwards. So let me read to you 2 Samuel chapter 6 verse 11. The ark of the Lord remained in the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite for 3 months, and the Lord blessed him and his entire household. Now King David was told, the Lord has blessed the household of Obed-Edom and everything he has because of the ark of God. So David went to bring up the ark of God from the house of Obed-Edom to the city of David with rejoicing. When those who were carrying the ark of the Lord had taken 6 steps, he sacrificed a bull and a fattened calf. Wearing a linen ephod, David was dancing before the Lord with all his might, while he and all Israel were bringing up the ark of the Lord with shouts and the sounds of trumpets. As the ark of the Lord was entering the city of David, Michal, daughter of Saul, watched from a window, and when she saw King David leaping and dancing before the Lord, she despised him in her heart. They brought the ark of the Lord and set it in its place in the tent that David had pitched for it. And David sacrificed burnt offering and fellowship offering before the Lord. And he had finished sacrificing the burnt offering and fellowship offering. He blessed the people in the name of the Lord Almighty. Then he gave a loaf of bread, a cake of dates, and a cake of raisin to each person in the whole crowd of Israelites. Both men and women and all the people went to their homes. When David returned home to bless his household, Michal, daughter of Saul, came out to meet him and said, "How the king of Israel has distinguished himself today, going around half naked in full view of the slave girls of his servants, as any vulgar fellow would." David said to Michal, "It was before the Lord who chose me rather than your father or anyone from his house when he appointed me ruler over the Lord's people Israel. I will certainly before the Lord will celebrate. I will become even more undignified than this, and I will be humiliated in my own eyes. But by these slave girls you spoke of, I will be held in honor." And Michal, daughter of Saul, had no children to the day of her death. This is the context of King David in this chapter of 2 Samuel. And this is where you hear, he danced before the Lord as the ark was brought. Today, my message is not to ask all of us to go and dance before the Lord. That's not really my message is. But if you can, praise the Lord. I would, and I do in my own time. But my message is not so much that we all should dance before the Lord, but rather the principle behind this is an expression of our walk with God needs to be translated outwardly. Our inward intimacy should overflow in our outward expression. So I take this passage and draw the principle with this context is a story, and a story has always a focus with that focus, but to challenge us in this season as we draw near to God, it also must overflow in our expression. And that's what this message is all about. Dance before the Lord. Let me share with you a little bit of this passage in a context. The story today, it's about King David bringing the ark of the Lord. And if you look at the chapter before and the chapter after, it's about how Israel had the ark of the Lord, and they really prospered and they did well, and then they lost it. They lost their walk with God, and they kind of lost it because the enemy came and thinking that because the ark of the Lord with Israel, that's why they prospered and they blessed. That was true, but what they didn't know was that they think that other people's blessing can be also their blessing. So without knowing and without having a relationship with this true God, they went and took the ark thinking that they will also prosper, they will also be blessed. But we know how when the ark of the Lord went to them, they kind of suffered with boils and sickness, and they couldn't bear with it, and so they chased back, sent back the ark on the cart. And the story goes on to say that how the first time when David and Uzzah went to take the ark, and how he died in the presence of God, and actually David got scared. He feared, and he never wanted the ark of the Lord anymore, and he went back because he was disappointed. Actually, he was grieving, he was sad because his close friend died in his very eye, and he misunderstood about this God. Then the story picks up again to say that how God blessed this household. When the ark of the Lord was in this household, the household was blessed and they prospered. And finally, what happened is that David went back to find out what went wrong and what is it that he needs to do. And finally, he found the right way to bring the ark of God and come back to the city. And then this story took place. He danced and he leaped. And in fact, he told his wife, I will be even more undignified than this. And I have 3 points today to share with you from this principle, this story. The expression of what David did was an expression of who God is. An expression of who God is to David. Basically, the ark of the Lord symbolized the presence of God. The presence of God. When David realized who God is and that His presence and what God has done before in the past, David realized who God is. He's the God of Israel. He's the sovereign God. Knowing who God is, this was the outward expression of David when he was dancing. It was an expression of who God is and was and is to come. Because the chapter after that talks about when they learned to host the presence of God, God's presence began to direct them. They prospered. They did well. God's presence gave them direction. God's presence gave them purpose. God's presence gave them blessing. And that is who God was to David and Israel. When David was the king, he was the leader. He did the right thing. And as the leader, he stepped up and he began to express, and it flowed in his dance before the Lord. I remember as I read the Bible cover to cover, I pull a few things together here in this chapter. That first, we are called to be a minister to God. Each one of us as a child of God, we are first called to have a relationship with Him. And in that relationship, we are called to discover who God is. And we discover God by reading His Word, by spending time with Him, and we discover who God is. And God begin to reveal to us. And as we begin to know who God is, the book of Daniel says that those who knows God will do great exploit. So there is an outward expression as we go deeper and deeper to know who God is. And in knowing God, there is an outward expression, and that expression is that we will do great exploit. That we are called, you and I are called to show outwardly our expression in our relationship and our walk with God. David danced before the Lord. In fact, the Bible says that his wife said that he was half naked. I am not sure whether he was dancing in his underwear or whether he was just wearing pants and he was shirtless. Or as I look at the historical setting, I realize the dancers in those days, or in the original context, actually they were wearing a white a linen. It is kind of see-through, but actually it was not really naked. It is just that it was an expression of humility, and they wear that and they dance before the Lord, not because that they are showing off their body or anything like that, but it was an expression, it was a simple form of clothing so that they can move freely, so that they can express freely. And David, if you know his childhood, he used to play the harp. He's actually a musician. He's actually a worship leader. He's actually someone who loved to sing. If you know that he wrote so many psalms, you know that he's a creative person. And so this was his expression. He expressed creatively. I can only imagine. I don't know the actual facts that how David danced before the Lord. But I only know that he's a creative person. He's an artistic person. I'm sure he danced in a very creative, in a way that it was the expression is not that he forget who he was. He knew he was the king, but the expression was rather he went all out in expressing himself to God. And that is a symbol of who God was to David. My first point is our outward expression should show who God is to you and to me. Who God is to you today. What do you know about God? If you know God is almighty or powerful, then how are you living your life? And how are you showing that? How are you expressing that? And that is the question and the challenge that I want to throw to you. I want to go to the second point. The second point of this context of expressing himself, it was an expression of what God is capable of doing. First, it was an expression of God who is. Second is an expression of God what he can do. And what he is cannot be explained. But what David know and what Israelite has experienced, that God was capable of blessing them, that God was capable of protecting them from the enemy. In this context of Samuel before and after, God was more than capable of keeping his promise in making them a chosen nation, a nation to be a blessing to all others. In fact, God was capable of showing Israel all powerful. The nation of Israel was all powerful because of God, and the enemy knew that Israel was powerful. That's why they wanted to steal the ark of God. In our walk with God, in our relationship with God, many of us know what God is capable of doing. We know He is all powerful. We know that He is all knowing. We have encountered and experienced God in a powerful way. But how are we showing that? How are we expressing that? My third point is, it was an expression of a true child of God. And this is one of the rare occasions of an expression of a child of God. Later, you and I find out that God called him a man after his own heart. This is what a child of God will do. That he is real before his God. He is real before his Savior. And that he's not shy. And that he's not embarrassed. That he is mindful of. A child of God who has a relationship with God shows in his outward expression. And that outward expression is very important because it flows from the identity of who we are. And the identity of the child of God is called to love God. To love God. to know Him, to love Him, and to make Him known. Our identity in God is to glorify Him. And for eternity, we are called to worship Him. Even when we are in heaven, as a child of God, we will be glorifying Him. We will be worshiping Him. That is the expression of a child of God. With these 3 points, I want to challenge us in our application. How can you and I express our walk with God? How does that look like? We all know that, from our inward intimacy, there is an outward flow. And that outward flow takes an expression. It can be dancing, it can be singing, it can be reading our Bible, it can be being a blessing. Sometimes an expression of a child of God can be doing good works, sharing grocery, being generous, visiting the sick, praying for them, being kind, loving others. These are all many expressions of a child of God. In our walk with God, we are challenged. That's why I'm very careful. It is a struggle, but I'm very careful what I speak, how I conduct myself, what I wear, what is my lifestyle. I'm very careful because I am serious with my walk with God. And my walk with God is being expressed whether I read 10 chapters a day, first thing in the morning. But that is my expression. There's no formula to this. There's no rigidness to this. But when I say I have a relationship with God, my outward expression is this. I give my time. I read my Bible. I pray. I meditate. I listen to scriptures. And in my alone moment, sometimes my expression is to be quiet and listen. Sometimes I enjoy dancing in my quiet time. Who cares about the movement, right? Not that I am going to get a Nobel Prize for dancing creatively, but that is my expression. But taking that deeper, this is what I do in my private moment. But taking that deeper and further, what do I do in my public moment? I watch my behavior. I'm very careful. I don't take my life loosely and carelessly. It's very important to me. I don't smoke. I don't go publicly drinking in pub. I'm very careful with what I wear. It's not because I'm a pastor, but it is my outward expression. I'm very careful how I treat others. I'm very careful publicly how I show kindness, how I show compassion. I make time, I sacrifice to do good works. I plan intentionally to do certain things. I go out of my way, but that is my outward expression because I know who God is. I know what God is capable of doing. Not just in my life, in anyone's life. And that is who I am. It is not that I'm goody-goody or it is not that I'm holy, that my lifestyle is like that. But it is because as a child of God, I choose my lifestyle to be holy and pleasing to God. And this is a challenge I want to challenge you. Your own walk with God. Evaluate your lifestyle. How does it show that you are a passionate person for God? How does it show that you are a child of God? Outwardly, how are you expressing yourself? In your words, in your deeds, in your attitudes, in your character, privately and publicly. You see, it is because I discipline myself privately, how I express before God, that I can publicly overflow and show my expression. Why is that important? This is my walk with God. It is not to attract people. It is not to impress people. But this is how and who I am in Christ Jesus. And this is how I want to live my life before God. so that one day when I meet Him in heaven for eternity, this is who I am. I bring myself, I offer myself wholly as a pleasing sacrifice to God. But that needs some form of expression. It needs some form of expression in putting our faith into action. It is not just privately, internally, nobody sees, it doesn't matter, my heart before the Lord. But this is a man after God's heart. It's a man after God's heart. Look at his public life. Did he sin against God? Yes. Did he do terrible things? Yes. Did he also show public repentance? Yes. Did he get right with God? Yes. Was this a man with a lot of struggle? Yes. But he was a man after God's heart. So your heart matters to God. And I want to challenge you, express it. Express it in your own way. You don't need to be a dancer. You don't need to be a singer. You don't need to be an artist. But show kindness. Show love. Show compassion. Watch your word. Look at your lifestyle. Watch what you watch on television and shows. Evaluate the games that you play. Evaluate how much time you spend. A child of God, how much time should a child of God spend playing computer games with his handphone, in social media? There's nothing wrong with that. But what should our priority and expression show like? The job that we take, the career that we choose, the thoughts that we think, how does it overflow? My dear friends, this is the call of discipleship. Even as a church, as we go to this place of discipleship, even as you watch that video, the beautiful video that Pastor Joe was talking about, dancing before the Lord is like dancing with the Father. And even God is dancing over you. It comes from an expression from deep intimacy with God. When our root is going deeper and stronger and wider, it bears fruit. There's something to see. My dear friends, what is it that you see from your walk with God? And I want to challenge you to take this time. Evaluate your walk with God again. Sometimes you need to go deeper, to go further. Look back, evaluate, so that you are walking right with God. At the end of the day, when David and Israel discovered God's presence and learned to host His presence, they found out their purpose. It was not just that they were prospered and they were a blessing, but they found out a direction. They were clear with their purpose. Hosting the presence of God gave them direction, where to go next, what to do next. Hosting the presence of God showed the power of God. Hosting the presence of God. When they learned to host the presence of God, God was glorified. And when you and I learn to host the presence of God, there is an outward expression, my dear friend. And it shows in our walk with God, in our life. God asks for our entire life. Not just our private matters and the private part, the private things that we do in our heart and we say, oh, these are all the matter of the heart. God knows. Yeah, God knows a lot of things. But God is also longing for you to show Him how much you love Him in your obedience with walk. In how you love Him. In how you spend time with Him. Whether it's reading the Bible, whether it's praying, whether it's singing in the Spirit, whether it's drawing, whether you love to do good works like me, whether you intentionally show love to other people, whether you pray for others, whether you be a blessing to others by being generous. Some of us are very generous, and their outward expression of loving God shows in their generosity. And I want to applaud them, and I want to honor some of our YM members who express their love for God in their giving. But these are all the many expressions. And why am I talking about expression? Because, my dear friends, regardless of the season, we need to tune and turn to the purpose of God, to the call of God. Each one of us have a purpose, and you need to host that presence of God. You need to know the voice of God. You need to come to that place where you're really loving God inwardly and outwardly, so that you're clear to fulfill God's will. That's discipleship. To do the will of God, to know the commandment of God, to walk with God. And walking with God is an outward expression as well. My dear brothers and sisters, my dear friends, those of us who are tuning in online, listening to us, let's come to a place as we reflect and evaluate, as you look at this story, a great example of a great leader, a king, a man after God's heart. It is an outward expression of how he loved God, and he modeled that to his entire nation. As I conclude, I hope that as you listen to this message, let the Holy Spirit come and minister to your heart. Let Him speak to you. Let Him minister to you. We have a dance that was specially prepared for this message, and I want us to watch this video. And as you listen to this music and watch this dance and look at the expression of the dancers, let the words of this song minister to you, and then put things to action, my dear friends. And then begin to make some changes in your walk with God, and see how you can fulfill God's will. Walk with God. In the coming days, in the coming season, let your walk with God bring you closer to Him, to fulfill His will, to be a blessing, to give Him glory, to bring Him glory. May God know you, someone who is after His heart. May God know you, someone who radiates His glory. And with that, God bless you. Have a wonderful week. Hope to see you in our physical service. Hope to meet you again. Can't wait to worship together and enjoy our fellowship together. Till then, enjoy this video. God bless you and see you.
You steady me, slow and sweet. We sway, take the lead, and I will follow. Finally ready now to close my eyes and just believe that you won't lead me where you don't go. My faith gets tired and my hope seems lost. You spin me around and around and remind me of that song, the one you wrote for me, and we dance. Oh, we dance. With the one who's ransomed me, the one who gave me joy for morning. Oh, I will lock eyes with the one who's ransomed not alone. I've found my home here in your arms.
I'm not intimidated by what I'm facing. I got my faith set on who I'm praising. There is a victory I'm anticipating. The walls are breaking. We'll take the promised land and